Today, we're heading out to the far side of the moon. Why? Because we're going to build a telescope that can actually hear the echoes of the universe's birth. Let's dive in.
Look, we've all been blown away by the images from the James Webb Space Telescope, right? I mean, it's peered back 13.5 billion years, showing us the universe as a toddler, basically. We're seeing the first galaxies flicker into existence. It's an incredible achievement. But it's not the beginning of the story.
And that really begs the question, doesn't it? For all of its incredible power, what is JWST blind to? What part of the story, the real beginning, is still hiding out there in the dark? Well, the answer takes us to a time before a single star had ever ignited.
You see, what Webb sees is light. Light from the first stars. But before those stars existed, there was this whole era called the Cosmic Dark Ages. The entire universe was just filled with a kind of fog of neutral hydrogen atoms. And the signals they gave off, well, they weren't light. They were incredibly long radio waves, something Webb just can't detect. To see that, we need a totally new kind of tool. We need the Lunar Crater Radio Telescope.
So how in the world do you listen for signals this ancient and this faint? Well, you need a brand new kind of telescope, and you have to put it in a very, very specific and very quiet place. To hear the universe's first whispers, we have to find the most silent spot in the entire solar system.
And Earth, unfortunately, is a terrible option. First off, our own atmosphere literally blocks these ancient radio waves from ever reaching us. Second, our planet is just screaming with radio noise. I mean, from our phones, our Wi-Fi, our satellites, it's a mess. And third, building a telescope big enough for this job on Earth is a huge challenge. Just think about the iconic Arecibo telescope, which collapsed back in 2020. It shows you just how hard it is to build these giant structures here.
So the solution? Well, it's as brilliant as it is bold. You go to the one place that gives you a natural shield and a perfect foundation. The plan is to build a massive radio telescope right inside a crater on the far side of the moon, using the crater itself as the dish.
Okay, so the hunt begins. You go to the moon's far side, which is permanently shielded from all of Earth's radio chatter. And scientists started with a list of, get this, over 82,000 possible craters. But they couldn't just pick any old crater. They needed one with the perfect size, the perfect depth, and a nice smooth shape. Once they applied all those strict criteria, that huge list of 82,000 got whittled down to just 300 candidates. And after going through all of those, the team finally landed on one. A single, almost perfect crater that checks every single box. This is the spot. This is where humanity is going to build its ear to the cosmos. Now, finding the location is one thing, but actually building a telescope there, that's a whole other challenge. The engineering behind this thing is absolutely brilliant, relying on some clever physics and super lightweight materials to make it all work. The biggest problem is weight, right? You can't exactly ship a solid 350-meter wide dish to the moon. It's just too heavy. So instead, the telescope's reflector will be made of an incredibly light wire mesh. And the physics here is actually pretty simple. As long as the holes in your mesh are smaller than the wavelength of the radio signal you're trying to catch, those waves will just bounce right off it, like it's a solid mirror. And believe it or not, you see this principle in action every single day. It works exactly like the mesh on your microwave door. That little screen lets you see your food because visible light has a tiny wavelength that passes right through. But it reflects the much, much longer microwaves, and that's what cooks your meal. This telescope is basically just a giant cosmic scale version of that. Okay, so a lightweight mesh is a great idea, but that leads to the next huge problem. To focus these super faint radio signals onto a single receiver, the dish can't just be any old curve. It has to be a perfect parabola. So how do you get a flexible wire mesh just hanging in a crater to form that perfect shape?
And the solution is pure genius. See, if you just hang a wire between 2 points, it naturally forms something called a catenary curve, which is not a parabola. It won't focus the signals. But the engineers figured out how to use physics to their advantage. By strategically changing the weight along the support cables, maybe by making the wire thicker in some spots or coating it with different materials, they can control exactly how it sags. They can literally coax the entire structure into that perfect parabolic shape without any heavy frame. It's just gravity and some really clever engineering.
So we've got the design, we've got the location, but how do you actually build it on the moon, 250,000 miles away with 0 astronauts on site? This is where the robots come in.
There are two main plans on the table.
The first one is the slow and steady approach. It uses these special deuce-axle rovers to just drive around the rim of the crater, carefully pulling all the wires into place. The other idea is, well, it's a little wilder. You put a single lander in the middle of the crater, and it just fires projectiles with anchors attached all the way over the rim. It's way cheaper, but yeah, definitely riskier.
And this is where that clever, lightweight design really pays off: the cost. Even the more expensive rover method is estimated to be under $5 billion. Now, compare that to the $10 billion for the James Webb Telescope. We're talking about a truly revolutionary instrument for a fraction of the price.
So how do you get this enormous 350-meter mesh all the way to the moon? Simple. You fold it. Seriously. Taking inspiration from the art of origami, engineers have figured out how to fold the mesh into this incredibly compact shape, letting the entire dish get packed neatly into just one lunar lander. Okay, we've covered the what, the where, and the how. So now let's circle back to the biggest question of all: why? What incredible secrets are we actually hoping to find by listening this closely to the dawn of time? The grand prize here is a signal called the 21-centimeter line. It's a very specific radio wavelength, like a faint electromagnetic whisper, that's given off by cold, neutral hydrogen atoms. And since the early universe was packed with this stuff, that 21-centimeter line is our key to mapping that entire unseen era.
This timeline really puts it all into perspective. You have the Big Bang. Then you have this huge gap, the cosmic dark ages. That's the LCRT's target. After that, the first stars and galaxies finally form. And that's the era James Webb can see. The LCRT is designed specifically to fill in that giant blank spot in our cosmic history books, right after the very beginning.
And the scientific payoff here would just be immense. For the first time ever, we could create a 3D map of how all that hydrogen was spread out in the early universe. We could finally test our fundamental assumption that it was all uniform. But that's not all. A telescope this sensitive could also detect the magnetic fields of faraway exoplanets, which is a huge factor in figuring out if a world could actually be habitable.
So, when you put it all together, the big takeaway is this: the Lunar Crater Radio Telescope isn't just another observatory. It's a time machine. It is an instrument designed with one purpose: to witness and to map the exact moment our universe finally lit up for the very first time.
And that just leaves you with one final incredible thought. For all of human history, we've explored the universe by sight. But now we're learning to listen. And if we can really hear the echoes of the universe's dawn, what other cosmic secrets are just out there, waiting to be heard?